Tens of thousands of Kiwis packed their bags and jetted off to live overseas in 2024. According to the latest Stats NZ figures, there was a provisional net migration loss of just over 47,000 New Zealand citizens last year.
In 2025, New Zealand lost more than 120,000 people to emigration, one of the highest rates in the developed world. It's ironic because New Zealand is everything people dream about: clean air, low crime, stunning landscapes, and a calm, safe life. People aren't leaving because life's bad. They're leaving because they can't afford to stay. This is the story of a nation facing a strange dilemma, losing its people, and quietly questioning what that means for New Zealand's future.
A record number of New Zealanders are leaving the country. Stats New Zealand revealed a net migration loss of 52,000 citizens, which is made up of approximately 25,000 arrivals, but get this, 78,000 departures.
New Zealand is facing a very strange paradox. It's still considered one of the safest, cleanest, and most admired countries in the world, the one that keeps showing up on best places to live lists year after year. Yet, it is facing a real contradictory issue. More New Zealanders are leaving than returning. In 2024 alone, over 130,000 people packed up and left, the highest number in nearly a decade. Most of them didn't go far. Australia has become the #1 destination, promising higher pay and cheaper living costs. And while new migrants from places like Asia and the UK are still arriving, they're only just managing to keep the population from shrinking. The real worry? New Zealand's birth rate has dropped to about 1.6 children per woman, which is way below the replacement level of 2.1. That basically means the country isn't having enough babies to replace itself. Each new generation is smaller than the one before it. Over time, that leads to an older population, fewer workers, and more strain on things like healthcare and pensions. It's really ironic. The world dreams of moving to New Zealand, while more and more Kiwis are deciding to leave. The clean air and calm life that once defined the Kiwi dream now seem to be overshadowed by economic stress, soaring prices, and shrinking opportunities. So the question is no longer just who's leaving, but why. And to understand that, we have to look at what's pushing people out, starting with the cost of simply living there.
Has attracted over the last 5 years, which include, of course, the COVID pandemic. Starting in 2020, moving through to the peak in November 2021, reaching $925,000, then slowly coming down again to hit today's figure at the end of February.
For many Kiwis, home doesn't feel like home anymore. It feels like a monthly bill you can barely survive. If you talk to people in Auckland or Wellington these days, there's one word that keeps coming up: expensive. Not just a bit pricey, but how are we supposed to live like this? Expensive. Take housing, for example. The average home in New Zealand costs close to $900,000. To afford that, you'd need to earn over $180,000 a year. But the median Kiwi income sits at around $68,000. That's barely enough to cover rent, food, or transport, let alone a mortgage. So for most young New Zealanders, home ownership isn't a milestone anymore. It's a fantasy. Renting is no better. In Auckland, a one-bedroom apartment downtown can easily cost $1,275 a month. For comparison, that's nearly double what someone might pay for a similar place in many parts of Europe or Canada. Unfortunately, housing has become the single biggest monthly expense for most New Zealanders, and yet there's no sign of it slowing down. Ask a young couple in Auckland what their 5-year plan is, and half will joke, leave. It's funny the first time you hear it, until you realise they actually mean it. And the frustration isn't just limited to housing. The cost of living for the average New Zealand household jumped 6.2% in the 12 months to March 2024. Transport, electricity and groceries are among the most expensive in the OECD, mainly due to the country's remote location and dependence on imports. This price problem isn't just inflation acting up, it's geography. Living so far from the rest of the world means nearly everything needs to be imported. Food, fuels, cars, even the materials to build a home. And shipping these things adds huge costs, and those costs hit the checkout. Then there's the small population. With just about 5.21 million people, the market is tiny. There's not enough competition to push prices down, so things stay expensive, even when they shouldn't. And when things were already expensive, COVID came along and made everything worse. Ports shut down, freight costs exploded, and sending a container from China to New Zealand went from $500 to over $5,000 at the height of the pandemic. Even after the pandemic was over and borders reopened, those inflated prices stuck around. Businesses are still paying more for rents, energy, wages, so they simply pass it all on to customers. Add in high import duties and fuel taxes, and the price of everyday life keeps climbing. For a lot of Kiwis, that means working full-time isn't enough to live, just enough to survive, and most people quietly wonder, is it worth staying? Because when you're paying world-class prices, but earning average pay, it's easy to see why people feel stuck, and that's when the thought creeps in. Maybe life would be easier somewhere else. And that somewhere else isn't far, just across the Tasman. Australia is the top choice. It's close and they speak the same language, the culture is familiar and the pay is better. In fact, by mid-2024, New Zealand lost over 30,000 citizens to Australia. Biggest wave since 2012. That's roughly the population of a small city disappearing in a single year. The Australian minimum wage is around $24.10 compared to $23.15 at home. On paper, that gap might look small, but when your rent, groceries, and fuel cost less, and your salary goes further, it's enough to change a life. Every day, living simply feels easier there. Take someone like Sarah, a 29-year-old nurse from Wellington. After years of long shifts and rising rent, she finally gave up trying to buy a home. In Australia, she earns nearly 30% more, her rent is lower, and she says the biggest difference is not having to choose between saving and living. And Sarah's story isn't rare. Thousands of the country's most skilled workers, nurses, teachers, engineers, and IT professionals are making the same move. They're finding not just higher pay, but better career paths, improved healthcare, and more affordable childcare. Australia's economy is bigger, broader, and booming in every sector. But each time one of them leaves, New Zealand loses more than a passport number. It loses experience and future taxpayers. Hospitals are short-staffed, schools are stretched thin, and small towns are quietly emptying out. It's a slow leak of talent that's starting to feel like a drain.
New Zealand is losing residents as new statistics show record departure levels. Statistics New Zealand data reveals 127,800 people left in the year to November.
When young people leave, what's left behind starts to show, and in New Zealand, it's showing fast. The country isn't just losing workers, it's losing its youth. The median age keeps climbing, and towns that once echoed with playground noise now sound more like retirement homes. Right now, the average Kiwi family is smaller than ever. Ask young couples why, and the answer usually sounds familiar. They're too busy trying to afford rent, pay off debt, or just keep up. Between high living costs and long work hours, many are delaying marriage and skipping parenthood altogether. Because when living feels like surviving, raising a family becomes optional. And the impact is already visible. Nearly 1 in 5 Kiwis is over 65, and that figure keeps climbing. Fewer workers mean fewer taxpayers, and that puts more pressure on social systems like healthcare, pensions, and housing. It's a quiet crisis you see everywhere. Hospitals short on nurses, small town schools merging because there aren't enough kids, and businesses struggling to find younger workers. In the long run, New Zealand will have to depend even more on immigration just to keep its economy moving, because it's not only people leaving, it's the idea of the next generation fading. As more Kiwis pack up for Australia, someone else is quietly unpacking in their place. In the past decade, New Zealand has become one of the most multicultural nations in the Pacific. Families from India, China, South Africa, and the islands of the Pacific are filling jobs, opening restaurants, and bringing fresh life to once quiet towns. The country isn't emptying out, it's transforming. And that transformation raises a big question. As more and more locals move away, who exactly will be the New Zealanders of tomorrow? For most locals, it's a bittersweet shift. The classic Kiwi life, small towns, weekend BBQ, and rugby on TV now sits alongside new foods, new festivals, and new faces. Auckland, for instance, feels more global than ever. You can eat Malaysian breakfast, attend a Samoan church, and hear 5 different accents before lunch. So, when we ask why New Zealand is running out of New Zealanders, the answer isn't just about money or migration, it's about change. The Kiwis leaving are chasing opportunity, and the people arriving are bringing new energy. maybe New Zealand isn't running out of people, it's running out of reasons to stay. So what do you think? Is New Zealand losing its people or just becoming something new? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story worth thinking about, hit like and subscribe.